So, last presentation before the lunch, and I think how it fits in a wider content. I think we had amazing presentations so far about what's happening in the market, which categories are growing, which are dropping, some great tips on ASO, the cooperation between UI and product. And I hope we will shed some light into where those users can be acquired, which networks are working the best, and trust me, boy oh boy, things are changing. Passing on to Igal then.
You want to say something about?
We do want to say something about this. So, after those 2 days of the packed agenda, we would love to have you around for our happy hour at the end of the second day. So please sign up and we can continue the networking discussions. There'll be some snacks, drinks, and a great DJ. But now, enough of the Schengenians, let's move to the content.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to say that this deck is very data-oriented. There's a lot of information. We'll try to elaborate on everything, but we probably won't, and we're going to forget some things, so reach out to us after. Starting with the data sample itself. So we chose between 25 to 30 apps per each vertical or subgenre. These are the top apps as we see them. We also use different companies. So in gaming and upper casual, you can find one studio that is, that controls everything. So we did try to make it as scattered as possible, but looking at top apps, the most savvy apps, and the ones who kind of influence us later on. In terms of the agenda, so first we're going to speak about media mix. We're going to show how installs are distributed between. We won't mention the names of media sources except Google because Mariusz said we can, but we group them between SANs, DSPs, etc. You're going to see it in a second. The second topic is retention in owned media. So retention is a topic that we haven't been speaking a lot in the past couple of years because we didn't feel it's changing, but something is happening, so we're going to show it. Owned media, it's a very non-gaming practice, but it is gaining more interest within gaming, and we're going to show some results. And the last part is ATT concentrate and SKAN because we cannot speak about anything else, obviously. So we're going to show how ATT concentrate looks like and the SKAN4 adoption. Cool. Starting from media mix, we used the most updated data that we can the last 2 months. Also, we're going to show comparison with year over year. Starting with gaming. So you can see that when it comes to social casino, the variation of media mix is the most, I'd say, healthy one, right? They try a lot, they test a lot, they use multiple media sources. What's interesting to see about social casino is how they use agencies and how they use DSPs. So agencies haven't been used in the past as much, but they are gaining more and more attention, especially with social casino, along with the DSPs that are also seeing an increase. Another interesting thing to see is in casual games and the use in preloads. This is very interesting. I don't know, or we don't know why it's happening only in casual and not in more verticals or subgenres. You will know better than us, but all the digital turbines and ours, they are gaining more and more interest. Another interesting thing is incentivized media source. By incent, it's basically CPA media sources that offer with offer walls, Fiber, Tapjoy, and incentivized offer wall is something that we saw a lot in the past. But we do see it's coming back, which is super interesting to see. For me, it's intriguing to see because I used to work with offer walls like 5 years ago, and we thought it's dying, but then it kind of came back again and it's being reused. And other than that, we kind of split it between Google and top SANs. We all know who top SANs are. We are seeing that top SANs are gaining less interest. They are being used less, but Google isn't. I mean, Google is staying kind of stable. So even if you compare, lucky because it's a Google event, right? So even if you compare Google to SANs, we see that Google are staying stable and strong, while other SANs are dropping.
Maybe just to add to this, I think what's really interesting for us in AppsFlyer when we look at this data is really if you go back a couple of years, I don't know, 4 or 5 years back, you would probably see 2 colors with maybe additional of the third one. So it's a very clear signal to all the studios that without a diversified traffic sources, and you can see, agencies in gaming incentivize traffic, which is we seem like it's so 2014. Like it's still kind of here, and I think this is also a very big message to a lot of studios that without, and once again, there are top gaming apps, right? Without a diversified media mix, it's quite hard to achieve a success in a nowadays complex environment.
Yeah. Also, we want to show you the change and how it looked like in the same months last year. I excluded the hyper casual because it's only at networks and there wasn't a lot to show. You can see how Google are staying the same. Other SANs are dropping. Incent are growing insanely. And also agencies are going quite nice. Another thing that is growing is actually others. And this kind of shows how you and top companies are trying to find new sources and experimenting new sources.
Cool. Thank you. Let's move to non-gaming. Obviously, non-gaming is a beast on its own, but we try to choose 3 verticals which could be representative to the audience here today. So we have gambling, finance, and shopping. And let's kind of focus first on basically the overall trajectory. So the non-gaming seems the similar trend as in gaming. Basically, we have privacy-related changes. We have user acquisition that's getting more expensive. And we have, on top of this, here I look at gambling and finance, we have some local regulations, right? It could be, I mean, anyone in real money gambling can attest to that. So you haven't shown the coolest feature of this presentation. Focusing on the specific ad network or SRN, we can see that definitely Google is doing very well on the Android side, both in gambling, finance, and shopping. It's almost more than 50% in all of these 3 categories. The biggest winner of this changes on iOS side is obviously social. Here I mean specifically Apple Search Ads. For obvious reasons, in the privacy context, you're still getting for user level data. It's quite simple in that regard to actually run campaigns there. What I think is quite interesting overall is that when you look at shopping, they don't really experiment too much. We see Google, Meta, TikToks, Snaps of this world for Android, also for iOS. The reason for it is that for a long time, I mean, we'll talk about the kingdom of shopping in a while, but not necessarily app-to-app campaigns were the main choice. It's a lot about web-to-app, it's all about owned media. We'll cover that also in a later part. But I think also I want to, when we kind of look at the other big shout out here is the agency traffic, right? So obviously agency means like paid media agencies, but also consultancies. The reason for it is that obviously user acquisition became a bit more complex. So part of the reason for it is that they try to, our clients are actually trying to get this knowledge and almost like ask for the external consultancy on this matter. Okay, for year-over-year changes, as mentioned, on iOS, there's one ad network. I think you can guess which one. There's also like a big traffic on the agency side that's also increasing year over year. Socials are dropping on Android, which I think is quite interesting. And as Igal mentioned, preload, again, something we haven't seen that much in the past years, but maybe one of the media sources that we can also consider for trying it out. Anything to add?
No.
Perfect. Okay, let's move to user behavior, web to app, and retention.
Yes, cool. So in the legend, basically we call it experiences and the way users are coming back to the app. So you have these 4 that I'm showing them for gaming. We obviously have much more experiences, but gaming is still not as own media oriented as non-gaming. Therefore, we didn't have enough data to show the other experience. But these are pretty straightforward as you see them from email to app, QR, referral, and social to app. I think that what's interesting to see is, first of all, it's showing much better results when it comes to remarketing. Social casino apps are more remarketing oriented anyway, but we see more non-social casino apps also going into remarketing and trying to bring users back to the app. And it's very easy to do it when you have the emails and you have the data about them that you can then find them and bring them back to your app. In terms of conversion rates, so these are from install, it's basically from seeing the email, getting the email, clicking it and installing the app. And same for the QR code and the rest. The conversion rates are much better when it comes to email to app, especially for remarketing, while we do see that social to app is the most common way or the most common experience of bringing users back to the app. Non-gaming app.
Cool. So for non-gaming, again, we very often say that what we can learn from each other as gaming and non-gaming. I think here, non-gaming for years has been doing amazing job in all the own media measurement, especially with the web to app. And as much as gaming studios has been fantastic in the UA in making suppression lists and making a very sophisticated models for user acquisition when it comes to app, I think the non-gaming part has been doing great in this own media measurement. I think what's quite interesting here, again, it is both for the net new users on install side and as well as the remarketing, and that actually plays a role for all the free verticals. But I think the big change about it is around the first-party data, right? Very often, especially in a privacy-centric world, it's not so easy to run this type of campaigns with the third-party data, but we see that in shopping. Very often you need to log in, you need to get your email, your text, basically your number. Anyone that's in Poland saw the text war between Lidl and Biedronka. That was actually part of the media measurement as well here. And I think that's something what is quite interesting when we look on the retaining the users, which we also will be talking in a bit later stage.
And also in case it needs extra clarification about QR to app. A good example of QR to app, we actually didn't put it on the deck itself, but I think it was last year, the Super Bowl ad, the one that the $1 billion ad, it was basically one QR code that is running on the screen. It was by Coinbase, and it was actually an amazing ad. It was very expensive, but very easy to make, and it made a huge amount of conversions, and it's very interesting. You can talk to your AppsFlyer CSM to learn more about it.
Yes, and I think also the interesting part on media conversion, I mean, essentially, of course, it's a wrong name, but sometimes they say it's a free install or free user, because obviously you need to put resources, you need to put the CRM activities on this one, but it's not like a paid media, so I think it's quite important way to add it into the overall mix.
Yep. Let's talk about retention. So in daily retention, in gaming retention, we looked at daily. On non-gaming, we look at weekly. And we really want to see what changed over time. So year over year, for 2 years, it wasn't enough, and we looked a bit longer back. And this is a subject that is being talked a lot lately, especially by Mateusz in LinkedIn. And that's why we are showing it. And we want to see that basically the trend shows that when it comes to the beginning, to the first days, to social casino and casual, the daily retention is dropping. Same for hyper casual, while it stays stable in mid-core. But then it also continues dropping later on. There are different ways to research and try to understand why retention is dropping. I think that the most common one is competition and the way that you have much more apps, basically, that compete on a specific user. It looks different between gaming and non-gaming. It's different users, and I think that it's up to basically all of us to understand how we maintain the users and make them sticky. Over time, this is a challenge that all of us are facing, but if you feel that you're dropping, so you should know that you're not the only one. Non-gaming.
Cool. For non-gaming, I mean, there are different reasons. If you can press the first button. So when we look at the kind of first week retention in the gambling and finance, it's dropping. It's a similar activities. Javi also mentioned that we see a lot of different apps in finance right now. The long days are gone when you had one banking app and that's all. We see finance is not only banking, it's also trading, it's also crypto, it's it's all involved here, and obviously the competition increases. With the competition increasing, it's harder to keep the user. Gambling, very similar way. Also, obviously, the privacy changes, obfuscating the whales acquisition become harder. In shopping, it's interesting because it's increasing, right? And I think in shopping, actually, if you can press the next one, the trend was even more interesting that the first week retention is increasing in shopping, but if you look at the first month or even further down, the retention is dropping. Why? Again, we see that every brand has their app right now. We have those new entrants that have unlimited budgets like Temu and Shein, as we saw. So it's very easy to capture the retention in the first kind of week and get any SKU that you would like to get. But then basically the retention keeps on dropping from that perspective. I want to, though, say it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It doesn't mean that the user is churning. It means that maybe the user is not using that regularly, not often, but it is because of the competition. It is because we are also operating on a mature market from that perspective. And definitely, this also plays a big role.
Yeah, and I also want to add that especially not especially, but in shopping and finance, we see a lot of promotions, right? In the past, we had a few big e-com apps that would sell everything, but today, because of promotions, because we get extra discounts, we also install the Nike app or the Adidas app separately, and then we buy shoes from one app and a shirt from another app, and so we just have more shopping ads and we have more finance apps just because of that, which creates more competition, and then the retention decreases. Cool. ATT and SKAN adoption. Let's start with SKAN adoption. So basically, we were looking at postbacks and the share of postbacks coming from each SKAN mode, from these 4 SKAN modes, between gaming and non-gaming. So you can see that they operate really differently. And gaming, especially the top gaming studios that are very savvy, most of them still prefer to go in the custom mode where they can control, and they can either on our platform or by uploading a CSV control the conversion modes to the way they want to. So we still don't see enough postbacks coming from SKAN4. However, in non-gaming, you want to say something about non-gaming? So in non-gaming, it goes the other way around. So what I see in non-gaming companies, in many times, they just do whatever we recommend them to do. SKAN4 started, we say, guys, let's go in SKAN4. SKAN4 actually has a lot of capabilities, and it's really, in my opinion, it's really good to go there. But another thing that is relevant for SKAN4 is who supports SKAN4 and which media sources support SKAN4. Today, as far as I know, we have about 15 media sources that support SKAN4. Non-gaming, which are very SAN focused, it's very easy for them to work with SKAN4, unlike gaming that have so many ad networks that they work with, and only some of them do support SKAN4. That's why you can see that it doesn't really match. The last subject we're going to speak about is, this is the change. Yeah, so you can see how SKAN4 is growing year over year. This is great to see, and this is good news.
Maybe on this one actually too. So basically, why is it important to adopt SKAN4, especially for, I would say also in this case, non-gaming, but equally gaming if you're looking at if you're not hyper-casual. SKAN4 also offers you 2 additional conversion windows, which means more data in the longer term that you can actually get into that. Offers you also web-to-app functionalities. So again, especially for any non-gaming businesses that are heavy on iOS, wants to get this visibility on how the campaigns are performing. It's a great tool to do that. And as Igal mentioned, maybe the change is not happening as fast as some would like to see, but it's definitely there. From the percentage perspective, we see that across all the categories is actually increasing. And it's I think the positive outcome is that basically we see, first of all, Apple's doing certain moves. I mean, SKAN5 apparently will have some kind of the remarketing mechanism in it. And also basically seeing the additional adoption on the conversion is definitely a positive sign. So, and also it doesn't cost you nothing, right, to adopt it.
Thanks. Last subject, ATT concentrate. This is only gaming on a map of top markets. Yeah, so ATT concentrate is, next slide I'm going to show a trend, but we see that there's much more focus when it comes to gaming. You can see that there's different ATT concentrate in emerging markets, and I think that Sensor Tower spoke about it earlier, about what's happening in countries like Brazil and India, etc., where you see more iOS devices. And these users, from what we see, are very easy to click the consent. So we have a bit of a higher rates over there. Hyper casual has higher rates everywhere, almost everywhere. And this is good for you to take picture and then compare with your own data. I think that many times we see ATT concentrate being published in different places, but on a global level. So it's very interesting to see it on a country level. Then in terms of trends, so you can see that ATT concentrate is growing. This is because there's a lot of focus from gaming companies, and they understand how important it is to get users' consent, to get the data, to later on make better decisions. You're going to see in a second in non-gaming how it looks the other way around. Sorry, Matti, for telling them what's
perfect. For non-gaming, it's a bit different story. As you can see, you would say, you know, for finance or for the apps that normally you would think you have more trust, actually the ATT consent is not that high. But really, when we dig down into this, the reason is that, as mentioned before, finance and shopping apps rely a lot on the first-party data. So they don't necessarily need that in their optimization. Some of the banks that we're working with said, Matti, we don't even want to show the ATT consent, not to scare the user. So this is also some kind of a philosophy that there is. And if you can move to again, if anyone wants to take a photo, that's fine. But actually, the ATT consent is dropping in the non-gaming side. Again, this is a big question, what's behind it? Our hypothesis is, first of all, reliance of the first-party data and access to it. I actually just came back also from the Games Forum in Hamburg. There was a very interesting discussion how gaming can actually get more of the first-party data. So, I mean, what's the incentive for the users to actually log in, to actually get the first-party data? Because this is, again, something that non-gaming has been doing very, very well. Not necessarily, it wasn't really needed before in gaming, as UA was cheaper, but I think that's also a very big topic in the next couple of months and years.
Yeah, and also I think when you go to different events, gaming and non-gaming, you see that the ATT is a lot of, many times it's in the agenda in the gaming events, while it's not in the agenda at all when in non-gaming, and this is, you know, this emphasizes it. Cool, key takeaways. So we still see the dominant media sources are still there, regardless if it's Google, SANs, ad networks, but more agencies, more incentivized media sources, especially for gaming, are increasing. You should explore additional media sources. All media channels are gaining interest, not only in the gaming space, not leveraging them or not at least exploring it and understanding where your company can leverage it. It's a waste. SKAN4 adoption. It's adapting, but it's slow, not happening in the same ratio that we want to see it grow. You should explore it, you should try it, and read more about capabilities. You can speak to Matthew or myself or anyone from the AppsFlyer team about the capabilities. We'll be happy to share. And ATT adoption isn't a big focus for non-gaming, like we just said. You should prioritize it.
Yeah, maybe one more, I think, takeaway from my end, what Mariusz said in the beginning. This is the time when I think those conferences are a perfect example to not only talk within your domain of UA or creative, but also in this cross world of like what we can learn from non-gaming, what non-gaming can learn from gaming. Because we see this convergence is coming, basically the companies that are utilizing that or utilizing those many different weapons in their arsenal are definitely achieving success. But also in Jorge's fashion of giving presence, obviously we try to aggregate everything, but we didn't focus on the specific genres. If you like to look at the specific genre of that you're operating in a specific country, in a specific type of apps, because we show the top apps, right? But we can also choose basically the medium segment or overall segment, feel free to scan it. This is the benchmark site where you can actually easily toggle between and find your app.
Thank you.
Perfect.